UMBASA.
2020 is finally over, and while I for one am happy to bid it a fond farewell and look forward to 2021, 2020 did afford me the opportunity, thanks mostly to mandatory lockdowns and social distancing, to dive into my favorite form of escapism, video games. Welcome to the first annual UmbasaMufasa Year-End Reviews 2020 edition. Hey everyone, UmbasaMufasa here, and today I'm going to be doing my 2020 year-end recap/reviews of a selection of games that were released in the year 2020. Now, there were a ton of great games that came out this year, and I was not able to play all of them, so I'm only going to be talking about the ones I have had personal experience with. That means right now there will be no talking of The Last of Us Part 2 or Cyberbug 2077, as I have not played those. But I do want to jump in and recap and review the games of 2020 that I found most interesting, and for many people, the beginning of 2020 sure seemed like hell on earth, and that is where I'm going to begin while I talk Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal, released March 20, 2020, was the first new release of 2020 that I dove into. I have loved the Doom franchise ever since the original on Windows, and was blown away by its savage rebirth in 2016. I even custom built my PC to feature the Revenant from the Collector's Edition of Doom 2016, so needless to say, I was hyped for this game. Overall, I had a great time with Doom Eternal. I was impressed by the combat, the new enemies, the new weapon types, and new abilities that really increased the diversity of the Doom dance. It really provided that finely tuned visceral experience I had been hoping for. Unfortunately, I do feel that the soundtrack is somewhat lacking when compared with 2016's. None of the tracks in this game even come remotely close to the power of BFG Division in 2016. And in a Doom game, the music is essentially 1/3 of the equation, with the other two being combat and level design. And without the amazing music, while the combat and level design are still strong, they're just not eternal, you know? Composer Mick Gordon and id Software have since parted ways after having disagreements regarding the mixing of the commercial soundtrack. And the final DLC for Doom Eternal will have a different composer. And if we have to enter into an era of Doom games without Mick Gordon at the helm, then I think Doom Eternal is maybe slightly more eternal than initially estimated. Alright, just to prove my point, let's go ahead and give this guy a listen. Andrew... Doom... Alright, never mind, I'm getting the DLC right now. Doom Eternal gets an 8 out of 10. My next game covers a topic that hit a little too close to home at the start of 2020, and that is Resident Evil 3 Remake. The game itself opens with some cryptically prophetic newsreels highlighting some of the events that we were all about to experience in the coming year.
This pandemic has spread faster than any disease in modern history.
Angry mobs roam the city.
Citywide emergency has been declared.
The CDC has quarantined the lower Midwestern region of the U.S.
Aside from how surprisingly accurate these vignettes ended up being, the game itself turned out quite good, albeit with a few criticisms here and there. One of the game's main criticisms was its short length, taking only 5 to 8 hours for the average gamer to complete. But 5 to 8 hours was far too much for me, so I decided to speedrun the game and was finally able to get it down to 46 minutes and 37 seconds. There it is! We did it! This was the one! Oh my god, I'm done playing Resident Evil 3 Remake for the foreseeable future. That's it. Oh my gosh. Submit it. Submit it, that's great. Admittedly, it is a short game, but I think the length actually lends itself to replayability quite well. Especially the way they introduced the new game Plus Shop, where you choose the rewards you want to take into future playthroughs, based on points accrued when you complete challenges throughout the game. Some argue that this might make the game too easy, but you can always leave the items you unlocked in the box if you want more challenge. This type of adaptive difficulty is great to see in games. Another huge change over the RE2 remake was the addition of the dash mechanic. This single change, while making the game easier, makes every encounter feel so much more dynamic. You're truly in control of whether or not you get bit by a random zombie lunge, whereas in other RE games it's common to throw a million zombos in front of you and attempt to tax your healing items by saying, you're gonna get bit once or twice through this passage. But to me, the dodge mechanic makes everything feel like you have player agency, and it feels less random somehow and more engaging to play through. The dash mechanic also makes the speedrun really fun to play through because the new mechanics allow you to come up with interesting ways to get from point A to point B in the fastest time. I genuinely think that the RE3 remake is better than the RE2 remake. At least from a speedrunning standpoint, and that's all thanks to a short length, linearity, the dodge mechanic, and interesting take of New Game Plus. And in fact, I love the presentation and style. It's just a big, dumb action movie, and who doesn't enjoy that? At certain points it even gets into Resident Evil 6 territory of ridiculousness, and I just can't help but love it. I give Resident Evil 3 Remake a 9 out of 10. If Doom Eternal is a reimagining of Doom 2 Hell on Earth and Resident Evil 3 Remake is a remake of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, it only stands to reason the trend would continue with my next game, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've been waiting for the Final Fantasy VII Remake ever since the first PS3 tech demo was shown in 2005. I even played through the Midgar section of the original game in anticipation of its release. So when it finally came out, I was more than hyped. However, upon completing the game, I started to have some mixed feelings about it overall. At its core, the game is fairly competent. The game looks gorgeous, the soundtrack is amazing, the environments are fully fleshed out and detailed. However, I do feel it loses some of the grittiness and cyberpunk aesthetic of the original. It feels a little too clean at times for my taste. Overall, it does tell the Midgar section of the story fairly accurately, but it does seem to get kind of padded out and boring at times. Maybe taking what took 5 hours in the original game and stretching it out to 30 hours was not a great idea. I just didn't care about any of the new characters or expanded storylines. Except for Jessie. Jessie is best girl canon, #Justice for Jessie. In the original Final Fantasy VII, you grinded through the combat to get to the story, but in Final Fantasy VII Remake, I find myself grinding through the story to get to the combat, which is a highlight for most people. But I even had some issues with the real-time combat. Not that I'm a turn-based elitist or anything, but it just felt too similar to Kingdom Hearts, where you simply spam the melee button until a meter fills up and you unleash a devastating super move. And the combat in the remake feels like Kingdom Hearts 3 combat with a new coat of paint on top. This brings me to my biggest issue with the game, and that is Tetsuya Nomura. Tetsuya Nomura was the original character designer in Final Fantasy VII, and he's since ascended to become a well-known director in the games industry. And the biggest problem with Final Fantasy VII Remake is it's so bogged down by his Kingdom Hearts inclinations. Tetsuya Nomura is a bad video game director. Every Kingdom Hearts game ends with a fight in a giant void against a huge Heartless and a bunch of random dialogue strung together that confuses the hell out of you, and that's exactly what we get in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Worst of all, Nomura forces the player characters to destroy the very being that is keeping the original Final Fantasy VII continuity in order, essentially opening the door for Nomura to change the story however he sees fit going forward. As it says at the end, the unknown journey will continue, meaning he is going to do whatever the hell he wants in future installments of the remake. I just fear that going forward, we're going to get more convoluted Kingdom Hearts bullshit out of Nomura in Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, Chain of Memories 358 over 2 days, Birth by Sleep Recoded Dream Drop Distance 2.0 Remix. This questionable ending forces me to give a game I was very excited about a 7. Make that a 6 out of 10. My final main game of 2020 is one I've already talked about on this channel, and that is Star Wars Squadrons. I've already done a review on the video, which you haven't seen, you can go ahead and check it out, but suffice to say, I am still hooked. They've even added 2 new ships since my original review, they've fixed many of the bugs, we've gotten custom matches and new maps, new cosmetics, all added since that original review. I've even switched to using a HOTAS flight stick system when playing the game, and while I have been hit by the COVID weight gain, I devised an ingenious solution by mounting my HOTAS to my exercise bike so I can at least make a feigning attempt at staying healthy in 2021. This game was my biggest surprise of the year. I still think it's super fun, it's a great value, and even though I never played a space sim before this, I am totally locked into the genre. Star Wars Squadrons ties Resident Evil 3 with a 9 out of 10. Finding ways to socialize with others in 2020 has been quite difficult, and I thank the multiplayer mode of Star Wars Squadrons, as well as a couple of other titles I want to quickly mention. The Halo Master Chief Collection on PC, which released Halo 2, Halo 3, ODST, and Halo 4 in 2020, which I enjoyed going through and playing with the boys. I also want to shout out the Baldur's Gate Early Access Beta, which, while buggy, did provide plenty of fun, and we had an absolute blast playing that as well.
Oh shit! Oh my god! What the fuck? Oh my god!
Oh my god!
What?
Other exciting things happened in my gaming life in 2020. I started streaming on Twitch. I found the time to even create this channel. Going into 2021, I have plans to continue to grow the channel, add more content variety, and I appreciate everyone's support thus far. especially the Devil May Cry video, which everyone is very opinionated on, and I appreciate it if you've shared those opinions or shared that video with a friend. And if I left anything off my video that you want to talk about, feel free to leave me a comment down below. I do try to reply to as many as possible. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this recap of 2020, and I hope you have a great 2021. As always, please leave a like, share, subscribe. My other videos will be over here. You all take care, be kind, be safe, be yourself. You have a heart of gold. Don't let them take it from you. Signing off. Happy New Year. UmBASA.